Hello, good evening, everyone. I want to welcome you all to our Arizona History Happy Hour. Thank you so much for being here.
Hello, and welcome to today's Arizona Hip Historian Virtual Happy Hour Tour featuring Marshall Shore. My name is Brenda Holt, and I'm the Associate State Director of Community Outreach for Arizona AARP. We are the nation's largest nonprofit, nonpartisan organization dedicated to empowering people 50 and older to choose how they live as they age. With a nationwide presence and nearly 38 million members across the nation, and over 900,000 right here in Arizona, we work to strengthen communities and we advocate for what matters most to families, such as health security, financial stability, and personal fulfillment. During the month of October, we will be focused on managing debt, building savings, and making better Social Security decisions. We will showcase AARP's relevance as a wise friend and a fierce defender. We will provide tips so that you can manage your debt, your savings, to improve your financial health. Please visit us at aarp.org/moneymap for tips, tools, and resources. AARP Money Map is a free solution that helps you create a plan of action for unplanned expenses and debt. You can also use this app to track your goals and learn new ways that budgeting can turn these goals into your reality. Let's get started with this evening's show.
Ladies and gentlemen, non-binary folk, welcome to the show. Get ready to meet your host for the night, Arizona's very own hip historian himself, Marshall Shore.
Well, hello, good evening, everyone. Tonight is really special. So you'll notice above me, actually, let's point over here. You'll see a little note that says pre-recorded. We're actually shooting this live from Four Peaks Brewery. So we're going to have some fun tonight because we're going to get a chance to really talk about Four Peaks Brewery and their building, which has some really interesting history going on in it. And I think you're all going to really enjoy this. So, thank you so much. My name is Marshall. I am your host this evening. And I want to welcome you. I know some of you are watching on YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, even Facebook. And we are recording here at Four Peaks. So we're going to have a grand old time on this October 28th. So happy you can join us. Now, it's a special day because back in 1896, when people were just getting off of those bicycles with the really big wheel and the little wheel, the city of Phoenix City Council decided to levy a fine of either $50 or 50 days in jail for anyone caught riding a bicycle over 8 miles an hour on city streets. Can you imagine that? It is also today, we are celebrating back in 1886, France decided that they would build and give us a statue. And so today we commemorate the centennial, that signing of the Statue of Liberty. That really kind of helped make a visual representation of the alliance between France and America since our alliances since the Civil Revolutionary War. So hats off to the lady in the harbor. It's also a great day to celebrate National Chocolate Day. Well, I think any day is a great day to celebrate chocolate. So today in particular, we get a chance to go off and celebrate that tasty treat, whether you like dark, like I do, and in some cases almost the more bitter, the better. And there's milk chocolate, there's white chocolate, but just imbibe some chocolate. It's good for your health and good for your taste buds. It is also National Animation Day. So we celebrate, many of us grew up with cartoons on Saturday morning, but animation is everywhere. From the movies we see to the TV shows we watch, there's so much animation going on. And so today we get a chance to say thank you to all those folks and just kind of remember the fun that we've had watching live animation from Harry doing, it's like, gosh, King Kong and all that stuff, through Rick and Morty and so much more. So what can you expect today? Well, we're going to have trivia just like we always do. We're going to have a little bit of music history. We'll talk about a little bit of Arizona, a small town in Arizona. And indeed, we do have a cocktail. And we have a really special guest. And of course, we're in such an amazing location right over here in Tempe at Four Peaks Brewery. So let's talk about what you're going to see. So if this is your first time watching, welcome. My name is Marshall Shore. I'm also known as the Hip Historian. And so about 22 years ago, I moved here from Brooklyn, I was there working in a beautiful Carnegie building, decided to trade that building, but also the snow, the slush, the wind, and decided to move to someplace sunny and traded that for a library in South Phoenix built in 1950 that got a major new building recently, and it's so beautiful. Now, when we got here, we promptly moved into a 1956 ranch that originally was so many tones of beige. And now I'm happy to say it is two-tone, seafoam and cantaloupe. There's what my kitchen looks like today. It is very much the house as a time capsule, kind of homage to 1956. And you can see with all that buttercream yellow tile, the matching appliances as well. So, and with that, as soon as we got here to Arizona, all I kept hearing about how there was no history here. But I knew that wasn't true, because every time I went for an adventure, whether it was on a bike, on foot, in a car, I came across so many amazing people, places, and stories. And that's one of the things that really kind of got me thinking about what we're doing and talking and really exploring that history. Now, for me, history is as close as yesterday and beyond. So thank you all so much. There's also that post-war boom that I think in a lot of ways made the Arizona that we all know and love today. All those GIs that either were stationed here, trained here, and after the war, they were moving here in huge numbers, in some cases looking for a house just like mine. So as the hip historian, I get to play a lot with history. We actually have a walking tour coming up on November 13th, which is a Saturday. That's going to start at 6 o'clock. So hopefully we'll see some of you there. Now, it's all outdoors, but we do get a chance to talk about some amazing 1920s and 30s era buildings that still stand in downtown. We also kick off middle of next month our LGBT storytelling event that is sponsored by the Phoenix Office of Arts and Culture. So that's going to be a lot of fun as well. And November 6th, I guess I will find out if indeed I am an Emmy nominated or an Emmy winner. So we shall see. And I'm so excited to announce return of Rooftop Bingo at the Clarendon. It's been 2 years since we've done bingo there. So very excited to be back and doing bingo on that amazing rooftop. So it is going to be November 10th and starting at 7 o'clock on the rooftop. So see you there. It's going to be a lot of fun. And don't forget, the prizes are indeed less than grand. That's why they are called grand prizes. So look forward to seeing you all on that amazing rooftop. Now, since we can't really do the chat this evening because we are pre-recording this, please reach out to me. You can do that on Facebook, Instagram, email, or even through the web at hiphistorian.com. So if you're watching on Facebook, I will ask you to click on that little share button because, there is a lot of good stuff to share. All right. So our first thing, we're going to talk about a little town in Arizona. Now, that little town is Amado. So Amado, Arizona is, as you can see, down near the border in Santa Cruz County. Population just under 300. Was established in 1919. Now, what I think is really cool, and so with this town, with Amado, it was originally named for a pioneer family, and that really kind of ran cattle through the neighborhood. Now, it's also famous because you've got this really amazing telescope that's there. That's a collaboration between the Smithsonian and University of Arizona. So that's really cool to go down there and see. It is also home of one of the most amazing restaurants that's closed, sadly. But it's famous for those big longhorn entryway. And it was said to be so popular that even Elizabeth Taylor wound up going there. She would actually even have meals airmailed from the restaurant directly to her. So, go check out Amado. It's a great little town. Now, things are a little different tonight because normally PJ is indeed our cocktail advisor, but because this evening we are sitting here in Four Peaks, they have an amazing cocktail up. And so it's actually a limited time. So they're only, I guess I'm the first one outside of staff to sample this. So, that is really good. I mean, did you see all the work? So this is a poison apple martini. Wow. That is really good. That is so amazing. So, and it's very limited. There's only 75, maybe now 74 since I'm having one. So, oh my gosh. Oh, and of course, here's now my Amado slides. So, I mean, it's like there were movies that were filmed in Amado, and there is that amazing Steerhorn, Longhorn restaurant. So, please go check out Amado. And it's such a great place. And oh my gosh. So now we are on to our special guest. And you're going to love the space where he's in. All right. So hello, Carter.
Hi, everybody.
So Carter, tell us, where are you?
I'm currently sitting in one of the back rooms at the brewery that we believe is one of the most haunted areas of the building.
Haunted? Oh my gosh. It's almost like that was planned as kind of the last episode in October, talking about a haunted building. Oh my gosh.
So strange how we figured that out.
Indeed. So tell us a little bit about Four Peaks and yourself.
Perfect. So I'll start with me. I'm a pub manager and catering manager. I'm also a tour guide and haunted tour guide here at Four Peaks. We actually have just finished our haunted tours for the year. So unfortunately, no more ghost stories until next October, but we'll give you guys a special look into them today. So pretty excited about that. And then, Four Peaks is obviously the largest brewery here in the Southwest, or largest microbrewery in the Southwest, I should say, to make sure I get everything correct. Founded here in Tempe in 1995, opened in 96. And we've really been really lucky to enjoy a lot of community support for a really long time. And as you know, we've flourished here in Tempe, and we just love our old historic building so much.
Indeed. I mean, it's a beautiful building with a really interesting history, which we're going to get a chance to talk about through our trivia. So, all right. So now our trivia is a little different than if you're used to bar trivia, because we actually go through the answers. So to start with, the questions are all multiple choice. So even if you don't know the answer, just throw a dart and you're likely to get it right. And then we'll take a little bit of an Arizona music history break, and then we'll come back and learn all about the answers. So you can keep track of how you're doing. You can keep track of maybe a pad and paper nearby. Maybe you want to do chocolate syrup on your leg. whatever you want to do, it's okay with us. And it's all good. And I'm going to have another sip of this poison apple martini.
Oh, those are so good. Those are so good.
Wow. And I love the color of it. I mean, and that rim being with the dripping is so cool.
Yeah, our cocktail, or one of our other managers, her name is Aileen. She's the head of our cocktail program. She really crushed that one. It's delicious.
Yeah. All right. Kudos off to Amy for coming up with an amazing poison apple cocktail.
I don't have a hat to tip, but we'll go with that.
Exactly. I know. I had a hat. See, and you're probably thinking, when I'm talking about haunted stuff, I should indeed be wearing a hat, but you're not wearing your costume tonight.
I'm not. Not right now. Not right now. It's been put up for the year.
Indeed. All right. So our first question is, in what year was the historic Creamery building primarily constructed along 8th Street here in Tempe? Was it A, 1915, B, 1865, C, 1892, or D, 1906? So what year do you think the building that we're sitting in right now, most of it was constructed in what year? All right, moving on to question 2. The original function of the Creamery building was what? A, an ice-making facility, B, a slaughterhouse, C, a warehouse, D, a morgue. All right, so why do you think the Creamery building was originally built? For what? All right, moving on to question 3. What important, now ironic measure was approved by voters outside of the Creamery building? Out inside the Creamery building. Was it A, Tempe growing dry? B, Tempe voting against historic preservation? Oh no, I hope it's not that. C, Tempe banning restaurants? Or D, Tempe voting to halt brick construction? Ooh. So, what important, now not really, thing was approved right inside this building? All right. Question 4. When did the Creamery close for good, shutting its doors? For us to be able to sit here now in the middle of a brewery. But did that closure happen back in A, 1941, B, 1945, C, 1953, or D, 1955? So what year do you think the Creamery closed for good? All right. Moving on. Which local band leader operated a music studio right next door to Four Peaks Brewing Company? Was it A, the Black Moods, B, the Refreshments? Now you might know them as Roger Klein and the Peacemakers. Or C, the Meat Puppets? Or D, the Gin Blossoms? Which one of those local bands in Tempe operated a music studio right next door? All right. Four Peaks sold its first keg in 1996 to this bar in Tempe, also located in a historic building. Was it A, Monte's Casa Vieja, B, Casey Moore's Oyster House, C, Rula Bula, or D, Tempe Tavern? Four Peaks sold its first keg back in 96 to what other historic building? All right. Moving on to question 7. Oh, now we're getting a little more spooky. Question 7. How many deaths are known to have occurred at or adjacent to the old Creamery building? Was it A, 1, B, 2, C, 3, or D, 4? How many deaths are known to have occurred right here where we're sitting? And maybe even right where Carter's sitting. But I think there'd be more on that in just a bit. So you're like, wait a minute. Was that a tap on my shoulder? What's going on there?
That does happen here.
All right, question 8. Who is the best known spirit haunting the old Creamery building? A. Greg, an old bar regular. B. Henry, a worker at the Korean market that occupied the space at one time. C. Lisa, a woman killed in a motor vehicle crash outside. Or D. Victor, a former Creamery manager. Ooh. All right. Well, you're trying to figure out which spirit is the most active. We're moving on to question 9. How many spirits are thought to haunt the old Creamery building? Is it A, 3, B, 5, C, 7, or D, it's difficult to tell? All right. How many spirits do you think are haunting the old Creamery building? Oh, it was like I almost felt something. All right. And our last question. How does Anthony express his ghostly anger? Oh my. A, throws things. B, runs at people. C, screams in the night. Or D, rattles doors. So how does one of the energies that hangs out here, Anthony, express his rage at being here? Well, I have a feeling he's probably expressing it because he's not able to have one of these.
Should leave him a glass back here.
Exactly. That might be what's causing all of his angst.
It's like, here's a quick beer for you.
Right. All right. So while you're thinking of locking in your final answers, we are going to move on and do a little bit of Arizona music. So because we don't have rights to music, we actually don't share music unless I can get the rights from the artist, and I was not able to. But I figured for Halloween, with the recurrence of so many movies, we should talk a little bit about Linda Carter, probably best known as Wonder Woman. And with now some other movies coming out that have come out, I know I expect to see a lot of these on Sunday. Both little kids and adults wandering around as Wonder Woman. Now, she was also a singer and a beauty pageant title holder. She was crowned Miss World USA back in the early 70s and finished in the top 15 at the entire world pageant. Now, she was born right here in Phoenix, and her first TV debut was on Lou King's talent show at the age of 5. During high school, she performed with a band called Just Us. And then she also played in a local pizza parlor for just kind of a little bit extra money here and there, whatever the tips were. And then she joined a band called The Relatives. But what I think is interesting, Gary Berghoff from MASH was the drummer for that band. I didn't realize there was a connection here, so I have to follow up with that on him as well. Now, the group did open at the Sahara Hotel and Casino Lounge in Vegas, where they performed for 3 months. Now, she was underage, so they did have to sneak in through the kitchen. She did attend ASU and was voted most talented, but she dropped out to pursue a music career. She auditioned and wound up touring with Garfin Gathering and the band leader Howard Garfin. Their first performance was actually in a San Francisco hotel that was so new at that point, it didn't even have a sidewalk way to enter. She's also been in a slew of movies, TV shows. She's even been on The Muppets. She had also her own kind of variety special, and in fact, there were 3 of them. She was at one point voted most beautiful woman in the world, signed up with Maybelline Cosmetics in the late 70s, and filmed a Don Rickles commercial, actually a Diet 7-Up commercial with Don Rickles. And tonight, that's going to be how we end the program, is showing that commercial with her and Don Rickles pitching Diet 7-Up. All right, so now we're ready for some answers. So, In what year did the historic Creamery building, primarily constructed along here at 8th Street in Tempe, what year? C, 1892. That was a long time ago.
Yeah,
And
it certainly was.
Indeed. And look at that building. You can still see flashes of that building even in today, which I think is really cool. All right. The original function of the Creamery was what? It was originally an ice making facility. So it was ice cream?
No, not exactly. So back in that time period, when they were making ice, they're primarily making it in Mesa and we're delivering it to Phoenix on a train. As you can imagine, there's only so much insulation you can do on a train. So they would deliver it and there'd be a lot of it would be melted. So a man named F.A. Huff, who was the original funder for this building, actually decided to open up an ice making facility here inside. And quickly realized, though, that there was also a lot of money in the dairy business. And then a creamery came shortly after. And now the entire thing is known as the old Creamery building. Actually, one of the rooms that I'm sitting in right now used to be cold storage for the Creamery. So these walls are all built very, very, very thick. They're filled with not only concrete, but also cork. So they're incredibly well insulated as well.
Oh, nice.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
really, really cool.
Yeah, no, and I love those buildings that are lined with cork. I mean, because they just have such a unique character, even a faint smell of even that cork you can smell like a century later, which is
you like
really
smell the history. I always love that when you walk into a building, you're like, yes.
Indeed. Love that as well. All right. What important, now ironic measure was approved by voters inside the Creamery building? And it was A, Tempe going dry.
Now, we always think this is one of our favorite stories to share here at Four Peaks because obviously we sell a ton of alcohol out of this building. And we've done a lot of research into it. And we do know that this was a polling place for a very long time. The Creamery was a very important community center for a very long time because you had to come here every few days, kind of get all your needs, because this was before refrigeration. So you need all your milk, cheese, things like that. You have to come here. So yeah, they would actually come here to vote on the matters of the day. And the room that I can actually see just right out over here, we do believe that the original, I believe it was 243 people it took to vote in Tempe's initial prohibition law. We're standing right over there. Measure was approved again in 1911. So the city actually voted twice to ban the sale of alcohol. And then the city of Tempe was, technically dry up until 1933. You could buy something called weak beer, which I believe was only like 2% alcohol, something along those lines.
Okay.
And to buy like the hard stuff, you had to go way out of town, which I think was like a mile and a half from where we're sitting right now.
Right, but back in the day when it was dirt roads and that could be quite a trek.
Yeah, wagons and horses, or heck, walking. It's a little bit further out there. So it's just wild to think how fast the city grew.
Indeed, and now you're selling alcohol out of the building that basically said no selling of alcohol.
Our favorite joke is we're cooler than those old guys.
Indeed. All right. When did the Creamery close for good? And that was C, 1953.
Yep, the Creamery did close down in 53. We've never really found a concrete answer as to why the Creamery shut down. On our ghost tours, we always told people like, ooh, it was spooky. No one really knows why, but just because we haven't quite figured it out yet. My personal thought is obviously like in the early 50s, refrigeration was becoming more widespread, way more affordable for a lot of people. So I think the dairy operations could change. They could, basically centralize everything and then ship out to other refrigerators. We could go out as consumers, buy stuff, take it home, throw it in our refrigerator. So it was a little bit probably a saving money thing, but I'm not honestly 100% sure. If anybody knows, let me know. Be great.
No, I don't know if it had anything to do with like the end of the war or something. Who knows?
Could be too. Yeah.
So many possibilities.
Definitely.
So if anybody has an idea of why the Creamery would have closed in the early 50s, let us know. Because I love hearing. Right. Exactly. And then you better share the answer with me, because then I will share that with everybody else as well, or even
plan.
some of the possible reasons. And so, all right. So which local band leader operated a music studio right next door to the Four Peaks Brewing Company? And it was the Gin Blossoms.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting, actually. So we now fondly refer to it as our studio bar. So the next time you guys all come to Four Peaks, it's actually the first bar you walk into. It has like our merch room, a little bar in there, things along those lines. It was a later addition to the building. It was actually an office added to the Creamery. The safe in there is still original, which is pretty neat. And because of the wonderful construction of the building, it actually turns out is pretty soundproof. So the lead of the Gin Blossoms, Robin Wilson, had that space. I believe it was from the early 90s all the way up until about 10, maybe under about 15-ish years or so. And then when he moved out, we took the space over. We do have some cool Gin Blossoms memorabilia in there. We have some photos of him like climbing, I believe it's either Mount Kilimanjaro or Mount Everest. I'd have to go back and check, with holding a kilt lifter can.
Wow.
They have a joke that one of the albums they signed, like, millions of kilt lifters consumed making this. And we actually do see some of the guys in here every once in a while. It's pretty fun when they come in and, we'll have Hey Jealousy on, and they're just like, can you just turn it off, please?
Because, I hear you can do that from your phone.
Oh, all the technology. It's pretty handy. As soon as I figure out how it works, I'll let you know.
All right. So question 6. Four Peaks sold its first keg back in 1996 to this bar in Tempe, also located in a historic building. And it is B. Casey Moore's Oyster House.
That one always trips me up. Every time I talk about Casey Moore's on a tour, I was like, Casey Moore's Oyster House. I tried. But yeah, so Casey Moore's been a longtime customer of ours. And that is just, if you haven't been, that is one of the coolest buildings in the whole city. It's an old house. They've turned into this great old bar, and it's a definitely, I'll use the term since we're close to Halloween, it's a haunt of Four Peaks staff. So you'll see this logo here a lot, especially if you go on a weekend night. It's kind of one of our favorite after work bars. But yeah, I've always loved going over there just because the history is so great. It's also extremely haunted. I've been trying to get access to go upstairs for a long time. It's apparently where most of the paranormal activity goes on. And I haven't found anyone brave enough to take me left. Sorry?
Yep, up in that bedroom.
Yeah, I've always wanted to go up, and no one will take me upstairs. I was like, please, somebody.
Well, Carter, let's go. I mean,
Okay.
So we actually, with some friends, we actually went up and did a little impromptu kind of ghost investigation there.
Oh, cool. I've always wanted to do that. I've done Jerome, I've done Bisbee, but I've never gotten to do Casey Moore's.
We can. So we can do that.
Okay, sign me up. I'm in. I
All
want to
right.
go. I want to go meet some great more ghosts.
Very cool. All right. So I realized I was so excited by how many deaths occurred that you sent me some newspaper articles that I was trying to read it. So I made it as large as I could and forgot to make it small. So I think the question is how many deaths occurred kind of nearby or in the Creamery building.
Yeah.
And the answer is C, which is 3.
Yes, so it's 3 that we know of. So that's very important. Obviously, as you know, going through old newspapers and stuff is not a fast process by any means.
Right.
I'm sure you're better at it than I am. But yeah, we do know that we had 2 men die in a train accident just behind the building. We actually had one of the more dangerous train crossings in the city. It was kind of just notoriously known just for not being the best area. Now, we're not 100% sure because there are some conflicting reports of what happened that day. But we do know that a wagon was stuck on the tracks. 3 men were on it, and then a train actually plowed into it at 10 a.m. in the morning on its way out to Mesa. 3 men on the wagon. All 3 were thrown from it. First guy, just a broken arm and a broken leg. The second man, his name was James Towney. Also broken arm. He also broke a leg, and he smashed his head on a rock on the way down. Died on impact, most likely. Yeah, it's a little gruesome. And then this one's really gruesome. The last man, his name was George Dean. He was unfortunately dragged underneath the train and cut completely in half.
Oh.
And from what our brewers tell us, because it's located about 40 feet that way, they'll hear what sounds like a train rolling by on quiet mornings sometimes outside the door. Then they'll also, on certain days, they'll hear the sound of men screaming outside as well, just like 3 men were thrown from the wagon. It's it's one of our more grisly stories for sure. And then the other one that we had the death here was, it's really sad. I believe his name was Henry Williams. He was actually the son of one of the employees here. He and a friend were climbing a there's a new electrical wiring pole. Basically, they were climbing up to kind of get a view. He put his foot down on one of the lines to kind of see what would happen. Unfortunately, was shocked and fell about 40 feet to his death. We don't really tell that story a lot just because it's really sad. And we also have no indications he's haunting the building in any way. So we just kind of try to remember him as nice as we can. And it was unfortunate. But I mean, again, that's the stuff that we have guaranteed proof that happened here. But I mean, given the indigenous history of the region, the accuracy of reporting at the times, and the fact that when this was kind of a more, I don't want to say rough and tumble area of Tempe, but it was, there's some scrap yards, and when we moved in, the building was abandoned. We had, found some paraphernalia and stuff like that. There are bullet holes in some of the old windows. So clearly there were other disputes here that might not have been documented. So we're not 100% sure, but we know at least 3 people have passed away at or in or very, very close to the building.
Right. And that's always one of the issues, is because it's like sometimes it wasn't reported, or the body was removed and taken somewhere else. And then it said, oh, they died there, when it was really someplace else.
Yeah. So who knows?
Indeed. Who knows? All right. So who is the best known spirit haunting the old creamery?
So this is Victor. We do love our Victor here. So this is actually a really cool story. I really like this one a lot. So basically what happened the first time we met Victor was our head brewer, Andy Ingram, was in here, like basically checking out like the trench work for some beer lines that were up to our bar eventually a couple months before we opened. It's about 11:30 at night. He stands up out of the trench and realizes there's an old man standing right next to him, which would have been very, very alarming. But when we were undergoing a remodel, we had people stopping in this building all the time asking what we were kind of planning on doing with the building, because either they had worked there, a relative had worked there, they'd grown up down the street, something along those lines. So they had a quick conversation, and the old man actually told Andy that he almost died where our cooler was currently being installed. We were like, whoa, that's crazy. And so what he told us is that there used to be a large vat sat in the middle of the floor. Basically, workers would pour in curds and whey, and then a big bladed mixer would chop it all up, making it a cottage cheese. So what the man told Andy is that one day he was in there cleaning out the tank when all of a sudden the mixer turned on. This is back in the 40s, so it's not a computer program going wrong. Someone has to hit a button. He said, I dove to the bottom of the tank. I lay there for hours screaming for someone to turn the mixer off as the blades whipped just inches from my nose. Andy's like, that's one heck of a story. Turns, look at the cooler, turns it back to the old man, and he's gone. So he thought he maybe snuck away, went out to check out part of the building. Andy walked around, only person in the building, clear as day. And then a few days later, we had another founder flipping through a newspaper. We have it somewhere in the building. I've been trying to find it, but it got moved. And I'd like to term it the COVID shuffle. We kind of moved everything around when people weren't in the building to keep some people busy. Yeah, Andy recognized a photo in the newspaper and was like, that's the gentleman I talked to the other day. And they're like, well, what gentleman are you talking about? They said, oh, well, filled them in on the whole story. Then we went back, did a little bit more research. We figured out his name was Victor Vogel. Was a pretty prominent family in Tempe here. They owned, I believe it was a hatchery around the corner. And he was a creamery manager here at the creamery. He lived a long and full life and died here in Tempe in 1979. And then Andy talked to him in 1995. Right outside of where our cooler sits, about 30 feet from where I'm sitting right now. We have people along the tanks sitting at night, so like even customers hanging out, and they'll say, "Hey, it looks like someone's wandering through the back, like an older gentleman. You might want to go check on him." Or it's like, "Nope, that's just Victor. He's been here a lot longer than you." We've had staff see him. Victor is definitely our most well-known spirit. Thankfully, though, we believe he's very kind. I've actually given his family a private tour and told them the exact same story. It was like, hey, this is the same story that we're telling people. Is this what happened? And they're like, yes, it's exactly accurate. The only way Andy would know that is if he talked to Victor himself. So pretty exciting. It's creepy, but it's also kind of cool. Like every time I walk in the back, I'm like, hey, Victor, just do my job.
Don't mind. I'm just here working.
Yep,
So.
just don't mind me. Just hanging out here in the old haunted building.
All right. How many spirits are thought to habit the old Creamery building? And it's D. Who knows?
Yeah, and I felt kind of weird putting this one in here, but it is really hard for us to tell. So we do have Victor. We also have Anthony. We asked a question about as well. We'll talk about him in a second. We know we have a little girl. We do see shadow people. We hear knocking on the walls. We have a new one who we've heard a lot more recently. We started to call him the cowboy. I don't know why. But over on the other side of the building, where the kitchen staff is, a lot of times tonight, they'll hear someone stomping around outside, kind of just trying to clean off their shoes. And they'll walk out and there's nobody standing right where they should have been standing and stomping off their shoes. We've also it's really hard to accurately say exactly how many spirits are active. We've had mediums come in. A few have said there's as many as 7. Some have said there's as many as 10. Some have said there's only 3. So I think it kind of also depends on the day, kind of what they're picking up and how sensitive they are, or the activity that might be going on. We do know, though, that when people who come in are sensitive to spirits, especially when we talk about them, that it does stir up a lot of activity here in the back.
Right.
A lot of activity here in the back. You feel a lot of stuff, cold chills, rocks getting thrown at you. That's happened to me before. Had my shirt pulled on, shoulder tapped on. My back was had fingers running down my back a couple times.
Oh, yeah.
It's always fun being in the back, like I am right now, alone.
So you never know. Maybe something will happen to you while you're on camera.
That would be great for you guys.
Right, but not so good. Right, exactly. Not so good for you. But I would say we're probably doing so much that they really don't want to be near us. So
hopefully it's kind of what I'm thinking. It's daytime. They're just kind of doing their thing for right now.
Right, exactly. They're chilling. They're taking naps. Whatever they do. So
yeah.
I like that. It's like, oh, wait.
Yes. We sure? We all good in here?
All right. And our final question of the evening is how does Anthony express his ghostly anger?
That picture is great.
I know I'm sure it's out of time period, but it was the best photo I could find of just somebody running.
Oh, no, I love it. It's a perfect shot. So yeah, I'm actually sitting in, you can actually see it. I believe the room I was practicing this motion earlier, right behind me over there. There it is, that one right there. So that's an old mechanics closet, basically. And then off to the left is a very small, little closet, like a secondary closet kind of idea. And that's where we think Anthony lives. So from what mediums have told us is Anthony doesn't like people in his space. And what he does is to clear you out, he will literally run at you from the side and stand with his face right here. So you kind of move out of where he doesn't want you to be at that point in time. We think his name is Anthony. We've done a lot of paranormal research in this room specifically. It's a little more quiet, so we can do it in the daytime sometimes, which is great. And the most common name we've caught on different video recording devices is Anthony. It's spoken by disembodied voices. We actually have a whole video. We did it a couple of years ago. Anyone wants to go to our Facebook and check it out. It's easier to find on there. We did a whole paranormal investigation back here, and we actually have 2 different voices. You can hear one say, "Hey, Anthony," and then her voice responds, says, "How about it?" And so, yeah, wow. He's a little aggressive sometimes. The first time he actually did it to me was actually the first time we did a paranormal investigation in here. I was turning off some lights, actually right by where you're sitting right now. So,
I like how you decide to now tell me this.
Well, I'm hanging out by his main house over here. You're by his adventure areas, and so I was turning out lights. It was about 2:33 in the morning, and our brewers do show up between 3 and 3:30. And so I was turning off lights, and I, clear as day, saw someone running at me from the side. And I kind of jumped. I thought it was a brewer pranking me. And I was like, oh, man. And I turned to look, and there was nobody standing right there. So needless to say, the light stayed on in the building that night, and I just ran. It's like, I don't know what just happened. Didn't clock out. Didn't do anything. I made for the parking lot about as quick as my 2 little feet carried me here. So
understandable.
Yes, very much so.
All right. So I know we have the poison apple martini, which is quite delicious, available. So are there any other things going on, kind of any special events coming up?
So we just had our pumpkin carving party yesterday, which is super great. If you guys have a chance, I'm sure we'll post photos of it online, videos probably as well. The people who do this work extremely hard on their pumpkins. It's not just like they come and carve a quick little Halloween style jack-o'-lantern. They're shaving them, and there's fog machines and lights and music to some of them.
Gosh.
It's really, really, really cool. Aside from that, we're pretty much wrapping up all of our creepy going-ons. Feel free to come in Sunday. All the staff will be in costume. I'm personally dressing up as Roy Kent from Ted Lasso. So hopefully it turns out okay. My costume hasn't arrived yet. So if the mail wants to come today, that would be great. And then aside from that, we're going to start gearing up for the holidays pretty soon. We do have a really cool beer dinner coming up on November 10th. It's very exciting. Tickets are available online. It's actually going to be held out on the Fort McDowell kind of area in support of national parks. There's like 4 courses. You'll get beer. There's like brisket and peach cobbler, kind of like very Arizona-y dinner under the stars with music and stuff like that. It's going to be really cool. But Halloween stuff, we pretty much wrapped our ghost tours. So we're going to kind of let the spirits have their space back for a little while.
Which I'm sure they're happy about. So how long is the pumpkin porter available?
Pumpkin porter is normally available until about Thanksgiving.
Okay, good. Because I was shocked. It's like, I had never had it before. And then PJ was like, here, that was a couple weeks ago. That was our beverage. And it was so good. And then had other people chime in going, oh, that's like my favorite beer on the planet. So had no idea there was this whole cult following.
Oh, it's a huge cult following. It's actually the best-selling seasonal in the state. We used to do it's really cool. We used to do a big release party every year, which happened to be on my birthday. So I'd always come, get here like 11:30, and we release it at midnight of my birthday every year. We released it earlier this year just because the demand for it is so high. We love that. So we do typically have pumpkin porter from about August to November-ish. We do have some double pumpkin as well, which is kind of like the pumpkin porter's big brother. Higher in alcohol, a little more pumpkin spice and stuff put in there. It's very delicious. We only have 2 kegs of that left, so we're holding one for this week for Halloween, and then we're holding another one for Thanksgiving week. You can get bottles of it though. We have plenty of those, so you can still come in and order it. And then for the first time this year, we actually did a barrel-aged version of our double pumpkin, which is scrumptious. So it was aged in whiskey barrels for about 3 years. And it is wonderful.
That sounds
and that one will be available for the next probably at least month or so. We only came out that about 2 weeks ago.
Okay. Wow.
So I'll make sure we get you some samples before you take off today.
Sweet. That sounds like a great idea. Oh my gosh. And thank you so much for hosting us.
Of course. You guys are all welcome here anytime.
I mean, it's such a great building.
It is. It's a wonderful building. Mm-hmm.
And tasty libations as well.
We're pretty good at those, in my personal opinion. I'm a little biased, obviously. But
I was like, you're biased, but
Yeah, I'd say we can always do the old, hey, come in and have a beer, and who knows who will join you at the bar kind of creepy line.
Exactly. All right, Carter. Thank you so much for joining us. Have a great rest of your night.
Thank you. You do the same. Thanks, everybody. Appreciate it.
All right. Well, normally what we would do now is how did you do? So now I know you're all self-grading. So, just keep doing that. If you want to drop me a note and let me know what you thought of this episode, because, I really do miss the chat because we would have had so much fun tonight with you all chatting. But I am so happy that you're able to join us as we do this kind of we're doing it live, but recording. And so we're having all kinds of fun right here. So again, if you are watching on Facebook, now you'll see why you should be sharing, especially at the tail end of October, because we touch on all kinds of October-related themes. Not just ghosts, but also Halloween and Thanksgiving beverages. So much fun. So tonight we don't actually have any show and tell. I'm actually getting ready to, hopefully next month, we are going to launch from the vaults of a museum type thing. So I'm going to be sitting with some museums and kind of getting a chance to go through their backstock and just see what they have and tell some of those stories, because they have incredible stories that you may never get a chance to see. So Thank you all so much for joining us. Now, next week we do have, it is Phoenix Pride coming up next weekend. And so with that, we are actually talking about 40 years of Pride right here in Phoenix. So that's going to be really a special event as well. So be sure and join us Thursday at 7 o'clock as well for that. That's going to be a lot of fun. And please reach out to me. I love to hear from you. That's actually how I get most of my best stories, is by folks saying, hey, we want to tell you something. I mean, I've actually had people reach out to me in the last couple of days showing me some really cool things. So I think there'll be some fun stuff coming up. I always want to give out a shout to Chris and Cole, who created that great little intro video. And normally I would say thank you to PJ, but today I say thank you to Amy for coming up with this amazing, wow, and it's almost gone. Oh, how did that happen? I think there's a ghost here drinking my cocktail, because I don't think I've had all of that. But, oh my gosh. Thank you all so much, and please join us next week. Now, I promised you an outro would be a video talking about, well, actually, it is Linda Carter with Don Rickles. So enjoy some 70s vintage TV.
Look who's turning Diet 7-Up. I guess you have to give up a lot to fit into your costume, huh, Linda?
I don't have to give up anything, Don. Remember, I'm a star. Besides, any diet drink can help me fit into my costume.
Then why the Diet 7-Up, sweetie?
Because it's crisp, it's light, it doesn't have that funny diet taste. Why are you drinking it, Don?
Oh, I like the taste, too.
That's impossible.
Why is that?
Because you don't have any taste on me, dear.
You're a beauty, too. A dandy.
Diet 7-Up. The only thing you give up is calories.